It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means. Yes, sirree, Bob. It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. This week, starring special guest star, Mr. Rob Chiarelli. Yay! And guess where Rob is right now? Other than not here. Rob is stuck in traffic, but he's right at our exit, so should be here momentarily. Then again, I don't know if Rob's ever actually been on time for one of these. Maybe a couple of times, but he always cuts it close and scares the crap out of me. Anyway, missed you guys. Haven't seen you in a little while. Hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend and everything is going well in your world. I think you guys hopefully, actually, I don't know that I sent it out to you. It's going out in our newsletter on the 9th or 10th. But Kenny Kerner, who was a much beloved screener at Taxi for many years and has taught at the Road Rally for many, many years, and just a dear, dear friend of ours, passed away about a week ago. And he was just an amazing guy. He actually discovered KISS and got them signed to their first record deal and produced their first 2 records. And he passed away sitting in his easy chair with his dogs on his lap about a week ago, I think it was. So anyway, I was at his funeral this morning, and Kenny, we're thinking of you, baby. Kenny was so smart, so loving, so kind. He could, as you'll see in my piece that's coming out in the newsletter, he's a big teddy bear of a guy, really big guy, but a teddy bear of a guy, and could be super bombastic. But you know what? One of the most honest, ethical people I've ever met in the industry, and I think everybody that knew Kenny really, really loved him. So Kenny, fare thee well. I was glad to be at the service this morning, but always sad to be at a funeral, especially when it's somebody that you care about a lot. Anyway, Chiarelli is here. Hi, Rob. Welcome.
Good to see you.
Oh, look, Rob brought me a brand new laptop. I'm now starting to charge people to be on the show, so Rob brought me a brand new MacBook Air. Thanks,
Rob.
Rob.
I brought so much more. It's not just a laptop, Michael. I also brought you a microphone to give away.
Ooh, check this out. We are going to be giving away, there we go, the right side of the box, a Gauge ECM 87, the much beloved. I don't know if I told you this.
Much beloved.
Was it somebody? Could have been Richard Dance, who was on the show a little bit ago. Why don't you plug that guy right in there, and in the headphone jack. And anyway, somebody that I had on the show recently, I was talking to him maybe at dinner afterwards.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Rob. Scared the crap out of me showing up after I start the show, but that's okay.
It happens.
Yeah. LA traffic, he only lives 15 minutes away, but the traffic on the last 2 exits just bunches up and stops. So anyway, whoever it was I was speaking to, I was singing the praises of the Gauge ECM 87, and they said, oh yeah, I've got 2 of them, and I don't use anything else for vocals anymore. And this is somebody, who certainly either has or could use a Neumann or an AKG or any of the expensive microphones. And I keep hearing this. Look, yes, he is a dear friend. He's like family to me. But would I plug his product if it was even just mediocre or decent? No.
That's the truth.
It is the truth. Look, I'm not going to ruin my reputation. I would just avoid the subject rather than,
Stop taking my calls.
Yeah, there you go. I do that anyway. But this microphone, if you haven't purchased one yet, well, obviously somebody's going to get one for watching the show today. But if you don't own one of these yet, what do they cost? $149?
Yep. But if you mention Taxi, I always give a break.
You do, really?
Yeah, every single time.
All right, so mention Taxi. Try this microphone, vocals, acoustic guitar, piano.
And if you mention Taxi, 25% off.
Really?
Yeah, how's that?
Nice. What does that work out to on $150? Like $35 or something?
$37.40, $37.50. I don't know.
Okay,
it's my calculator at work. Something like that.
Anyway, well, here, let's figure it out right now. 149.95 times 25% is $37.50 off, so $149 minus $37.50
He doesn't believe me.
is $111.50 to get a microphone that sounds killer. You know what else somebody told me at the Road Rally? I keep forgetting to tell you this. They told me it was the best sounding floor tom microphone they've ever used. I've never tried it on floor tom.
They're a little big for toms, but I use them on toms all the time.
I think
Really good for toms.
I was always afraid to use, although I used 414s a lot on toms. But look, it's a dangerous place to put a really great microphone, but these are so inexpensive that they're practically disposable. If a drummer whacks one and blows it up, you just buy another.
Send it back. We'll fix it.
There you go. Send it back, and Rob will send his Crow. What is this? Where did this come from, the Crow? What does it say under that?
That's the stealth version. It's the black and the
Ooh,
silver.
hold on.
So now, while we're talking, because I thought I'd do something else here as we go, because I know the taxi folks are listening. So now, you usually have a guy typing for you, but he's not here today.
Right.
I don't do that anymore.
Right. I don't need that anymore.
So here's the thing. I'm going to put this up. Now, if you guys, I know a lot of you guys, yeah, so here this. See, check that out. It says Taxi Rocks with an exclamation point there, right? See that? So if any of you guys have been wanting to get the Mixbus plugin, go to the website, type that in the code, 50% off. For as long as I'm sitting here with you today.
Oh, really? So just
$9 and change, and you get the bomb plug-in.
Tell them what it is.
No, let's get to music. Let's talk music first. We'll come back to that stuff.
Okay, so here, I'll put this away later. So anyway, I probably pissed Rob off, certainly scared the crap out of him when, before last year's Road Rally, I said, you know that thing that you do in the ballroom every year? Rob and his friend Ron Harris, who he's worked with in the studio for many, many years, and Ron is very sharp and very comedic, and the two of them are really good on stage together. They do a thing where they poke around the audience of 200 people in the little 200-seat theater and go, okay, who's got like a beat happening? Somebody will lay a beat on them, somebody will lay a melody line on them, somebody else a lyric, and they pick these people, literally, whoever's got the best thing that they shout out of the audience, they pick them, throw them up on the stage, and they build a song live during their thing. So
done that a couple of times.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
And I hear rave reviews about it. So I said to Rob, look.
But hold on.
Yeah.
The stuff that people come up with is killing.
I should have had you bring one of those things.
I wish I knew.
Yeah.
Next time.
All right.
Next time.
Next time. But people come out of that class just like floating on air, going, that was so amazing.
And
I learned so much.
Yeah, we do too. It's really good.
I get this question a lot from a lot of members, and I've been getting it for many, many years. I get stuck at the 4/4 acoustic guitar strummy demo, and then I'm just stuck, and I don't know what to do. So I got an email. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but a taxi member sent me a really nicely worded email saying, gee, I wish you could help me get past this thing where I've got a 4/4 acoustic guitar vocal demo. I don't know what to do with it next. I don't know how to take GarageBand or Pro Tools or any of the basic gear out there and turn it into something that sounds like a hip, modern, contemporary track. I get stuck there. I'm a songwriter. I'm not a producer. So I said to Rob, let's take what you do in that classroom of 200 people, that theater of 200 people, and put it in the grand ballroom in front of 1,000 or 1,100 people. And he immediately went into panic mode. Lasco, you don't realize the enormity of what you're asking me to do. You don't realize how much planning goes into it. I said, look, how bad could it be? Normally, you do it by the seat of your pants. Picking people out of the audience, you could get crap or you could get something amazing. You don't know. At least this way...
That wasn't the point, though.
Well, I know it wasn't the entire point. I'm getting to the rest of it. So there are all these variables.
I'm getting this ready, so
right.
Everyone, I'm not just being rude.
He's
working.
prepping.
Go ahead.
So the biggest variable, obviously, is the technical stuff. And he said, look, I don't know what kind of song we're going to get, so I don't know which players to use or what kind of parts or which instruments. And there's always something that goes wrong technically, blah, 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 blah. There were so many ways for it to melt down. And I begged and I pleaded and I twisted his arm. And out of respect for our 35-year friendship or whatever it is, he relented. But
the big problem was all those the big monitors. The big deal, having the monitors coming back.
Floor monitors blowing up at you, The
little place, couple of speakers, we could get away with it. We could have an open mic, someone could sing into it, but then you get feedback. That was one of the big issues, and then...
So we solved that problem, because rather than we eliminated variables, went down the list. And we actually picked a song that my daughter Hannah had recorded at Rob's house. We were over there one night for pizza or something, and Rob said, "What are you doing?" And Hannah told him about a song of hers. So my now son-in-law, Hayden, plays acoustic guitar really well. He played an acoustic guitar. Hannah sang, and Rob and Hannah and Hayden and I were all sitting literally this close to each other in Rob's little control room. And it was one pass. Rob recorded Hannah singing live, one pass. She was coming down with the flu.
Which added a good thing to the vocal.
It did. It gave her a nice little edge in her throat. I don't think Hayden knew the song all that well, but he pulled it off, and they did one pass, and it came out great. We did one more pass where Hayden just laid down a secondary guitar part so we could pan them left and right. Rob threw a little compression on the vocal, and that was about it, right? I mean, the whole thing took like 20 minutes or so. Said, okay, to eliminate variables, why don't we use that track? You recorded it, you know the song, we don't have to worry about singing a vocal. Working with an unknown song, this way your musicians that are going to play on it can be familiar with the song before they get there. You can have everything mapped out. He felt a little better about it. He was still nervous. And of course, when we started the thing, we had a technical issue, got past that, and it came off so wonderfully that for like 2 months after the rally, people kept saying, that was amazing. That was wonderful. I loved it. I learned so much. And so what we're going to do today is Rob brought, is this GarageBand or Pro Tools? GarageBand. So Rob laid the tracks, took them off of Pro Tools, put them in GarageBand, put them on his laptop. And we're going to...
My daughter's laptop.
His daughter's laptop.
And I'm not too swift on GarageBand. I really don't know how to use it, so...
Well, basically, it's got a mute button, and it's got a pan and a fader. It's not that hard. Even I can operate it.
Yeah.
So
cool.
what we're going to do is kind of recreate. So we're going to play you guys the guitar vocal version and let you hear that like through the bridge so that you've got an idea of what's going on. And then Rob's going to talk about a little bit like, okay, so what do we need to pick drum-wise? And he's going to play the drum track. And he had the audience work with him on this. He'd play one kind of drum track and people would raise their hands, half the room. Played another one, 2/3 of the people raised their hands. Played another one, 10% raised their hands. Played a fourth one, everybody went, that's the one. It was pretty obvious to everybody. Now, in a room by themselves, they might ruminate and they might put too much thought into it. But it seemed obvious at the time to everybody. And so they laid down the drum track and...
They didn't pick the same thing I would have picked.
Really?
No.
I thought you were happy with what they picked.
It didn't. To me, the idea of this was not so much that we could make a hit record in an hour.
No, it was showing how the building blocks.
Yeah, let's get our ideas out without spending a day and a half on the kick drum or on mic placement or something, because
right, bottom snares, bottom of the snare.
Right, exactly. So, and I think that is one of the most valuable lessons of that particular presentation, is that it's so easy to get caught up in the smallest thing. Okay, you've written a song, you want to create a demo. Now maybe it took you a day to write the song, or a week, or a month, but now you want to produce it, and it's so easy to get trapped in a kick drum sound. Now that doesn't mean that's not important, because I think it is important. But in order to map out your ideas in an intelligent and, musical way, sometimes, it's better to keep moving. At least that's the way I work, and that's the way Ron works. Some people do work differently, and whatever works for you, right? So, in our case, there were a bunch of drum loops that we got from Hayden out there at drummerheads.com.
Was that it?
Well, that's where they are now.
Okay.
Drummerheads.com. If you want to hear great drums and stuff, that's I think those are the loops we used. So, anyway, we got those loops, and I picked a bunch of them, and we threw them up.
And these were actual drums made into loops, right?
Yeah, they're just drum loops. You can just get them off a CD. It's
right, but they weren't. I mean, they were microphones on real drums made into loops. They weren't synthesized, I think.
Yeah, they sound like real drums. So,
okay.
And so they were at different tempos. We just, people liked the beat. They picked it. It wasn't the one I would have picked. I remember, thinking, wow, I hope that one works, So they picked, a lot of people liked it. So, that was valuable to me because what they had picked wasn't what my instincts were naturally taking me, but part of the process that Ron and I do with one another is we rely on one another's opinions. So here we're relying on the audience's reaction, and they picked a loop that took it in to a slightly different feel.
Mm-hmm.
We put it underneath the guitar and the vocal, and then we started building. And that was not what anybody could have expected. The guitar player, Michael Hart and Nate Highfield,
they
didn't know what loop you were going to pick, and
right. So they'd heard the song, but they didn't have their parts mapped out because they didn't know what they'd be playing around.
Yeah, we did it exactly like I would do in the studio. Here's basically the demo. Give it a listen, know the chords, so you don't fumble through it, and let's figure out. I'm going to put you on the spot, and we're going to go.
So just to give these guys some props, we had Taxi member James Koshin, who's been on the show before.
Great
He's
guy.
an amazing, just an amazing human being. Michael Hart, another Taxi member. Nate Highfield, who's an incredibly talented guitar player, producer, performer. And Tom Carr, who works with Rob in the studio. And I just want to give those guys a special shout out because they all gave a lot of their hours. Rob put in a ridiculous amount of hours, I would say.
Not really.
Who, they didn't or you didn't?
Well, they listened to it. When you say ridiculous, the thought of making sure we didn't mess up, like here's what the problem was, is making sure the system could handle it. That was my biggest concern, and that's why it died, because we did a little too much.
And Tom Carr did work a lot of hours.
Tom, he did. He put some time into it, absolutely.
A sweet kid. I hate to call him a kid, but he's compared to us, he's a kid.
He's a youngster. He's 23 now. So
wow.
24 maybe.
Anyway, he did a great job, and
Yep.
Rob expects a lot of him, and he lives up to that. So anyway, hit something just so I can make sure we've got you up in the monitors here.
Okay. How about an acoustic guitar?
Yeah, let's see if it's there.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, check your output there because we should be good to go.
There
it is.
Well, I hear it here. There we go.
Yeah.
It's the end of a fight.
Okay, so this is the original guitar vocal.
She fought off a war while she slept last night.
Is it in stereo?
She opened her eyes,
Good.
forgot how to breathe. She found that she lost something that she couldn't see. This is the end, and she sees a light. She finally knows what it feels like to be alright. This is the very first time.
Very straight ahead.
She doesn't need to cry, and she can't explain why. This is suicide, not stuck between two ways. She's in a better place. No need to choose a side. This is suicide.
Okay, so almost folky. I mean, straight ahead singer-songwriter, couldn't be more stripped down.
Yep. Guitar,
Okay.
vocal, good song. That helps. Great singing, man. Really good.
It's always easy to sing a song about killing yourself or
Or
somebody killing themselves.
Yeah, I can't carry a tune in a bag, but she can sing. So,
Thanks.
and that makes it a lot easier when there's something to work with, of course. So, I think the first thing is that we ask the audience to pick a loop.
Mhm.
Pick a drum beat that we could build on, and I'll play what they gave me, and this is it.
Are you going to play it with or without the guitar and vocal? Just
Oh,
by
just-
itself?
We'll just play the loop, and
Okay.
then we'll add the stuff in. But
Okay.
they really didn't have the benefit of hearing the record of the guitar and vocal when they were picking the loop. They were doing it by memory. So this is it. This was actually a couple of them we mixed together. It's pretty simple.
Very straight ahead.
I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing complicated about it, which is what I
Any
liked.
turnarounds in there or anything? It's just
We
this
didn't
all the
have
way
time
through.
to do any of that. We
So-
didn't have time.
So you would go back later after you find...
That's right.
That's the salt and pepper but keep plowing forward to get.
Get the ideas out first. That's
Okay.
what I like to do. I like to get it out of my head and get, when there's something flowing, we build, and then we edit and we subtract, and like you
Right.
would in a real rehearsal. That's where I come from. Is if a drummer has an idea for a beat, you play it and you try it, and then maybe that triggers an idea from the bass player. Maybe the guitar player says, "Oh, well, try this," and then he jumps in. So now you have this thing that's organic.
Taking shape, and then you only have to deal with the personalities when you say to the guitar player, "No, hold off on that. We're getting somewhere with the bass and the drums." And I love the scene in the Eagles, Eagles documentary.
Oh, great!
When
I've seen
they've
that
just,
so many
yeah,
times.
me too. I hate it when it comes on at midnight because I'll stay up till 4 a.m. watching it on a
Part
school,
1, Part 2,
Yeah.
Part 3, and
on a school night.
in the long run.
And that part where they've decided to get back together in the early 90s, I think, and do the thing for HBO or wherever.
Hmm.
And they're in the rehearsal session and they're working out parts to a new song. And man, with their history, it's always a delicate balance anyway, but with their history, and everybody in there is basically a solo artist in their own right, that had to be challenging at best, but they pulled it off. Anyway, back to this.
Well, they did after many years, but just
Yeah.
like any group, those tensions, that's what fuels the brilliance and sometimes breaks it apart. But which we saw in that movie too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Rob and I
listen,
ran into this all the time when we co-produced the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five. Back in the day, we had those problems all
I
the
think
time.
I was born then. Maybe you were.
I was, actually. I'm that old.
Dave Clark 5.
I remember this was a big
Glad
deal.
all over, man.
When I was in
Good
grade
stuff.
school and the Beatles came out, my friend Marty Martin was like a big Dave Clark Five fan. I was Beatles, he was Dave Clark Five, and that was our big. Instead of talking baseball teams, we would have the battle of the
I
bands.
think you won that one.
Yeah.
Ultimately. So anyway, here's the drums, which works really well, I think.
She found that she lost something that she couldn't see. This is the end. When she sees the light, she finally knows what it feels like to be alright. This.
So there it is. So drum loop, acoustic guitar, it's already starting to sound like something you can build on.
Jim Carvalho said, would this be called a scratch take? I mean, the guitar vocal was laid down just because we were going to Rob's house for dinner, I think, or maybe New Year's Eve or something, and Rob just said, well, lay it down at my house. We were just doing,
Yeah, it's a
you know,
scratch.
Yeah,
Really,
because she was
it's-
going to send it in for copyright, and that was the only reason we were recording. It just came
Yeah.
out better than we expected it to in one pass.
But here's the thing. I cannot tell you how many times. It's in the hundreds, if not 1,000 times,
I know where you're
where
going.
that scratch vocal
Yeah,
is the vocal.
yeah.
And there's a record I'm doing right now, and don't want to mention the artist because it's a major label artist, but we wrote a song, and she just laid a little vocal down just as a guide, and that's the magic. Like, it feels so good.
Because they don't worry about the performance.
It's just about getting the idea across, and I think that that's one of those things that can in these days where you clean up everything.
Yeah.
And you make sure everything is perfect. This is another thing that Ron and I do every year at Taxi is we play old vintage masters, and we show all of the imperfections that you can't really tell. They add the vibe to the record, maybe something slightly out of tune, but it's cool and it works,
Mm-hmm.
Where these days we tend to fix everything, and yes, that, making those decisions, those can sometimes be big decisions. But is the part, is it serving the song? Is it getting us somewhere? Are we traveling in the right direction? And if we are, you know what? Let's keep going. We keep walking down that road and see if we discover something great along the way. And I think that a lot of this stuff, these rough mixes and, scratch vocals, something about them.
Mhm.
There's always something cool about them.
No pressure.
No pressure, no thinking, and don't sometimes overthinking something will kill it. And when you listen to a record that's mixed, you only hear that final work, and you're not listening for the mistakes or the little things. You just, as a listener, enjoying the music. And I think when I started mixing and producing, I got the opportunity to work with great producers and listen to the multi-tracks. And when I'd solo a part and I'd hear something, it would surprise me if it wasn't fixed. Why didn't you fix it? And one artist turned to me and said, "You worried about that? You worried about that little thing? Get over it." And I just about fell over my chair because it made perfect sense. Get over that little teeny thing.
Which, by the way, was the name of the Eagles song they wrote on the reunion. Was
Get
Get
Over
Over It.
Isn't that funny?
It's all coming full circle now.
Another great movie I just saw is Sound City.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Good one.
Dave Grohl is on my short list of people to get to be the honorary keynote at the Road Rally this year. I would love, actually, to get Dave Grohl to come and
Bring the Foo Fighters?
bring Sound City and do a nighttime showing of Sound City where we watch it as a group with Dave Grohl commenting or something. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get off
Let's
the track.
get them.
here.
Go ahead.
So let's keep moving forward on this. So the next part was coming up, obviously, with the bass. And what was your goal with the bass? What function did you want it to perform?
I usually don't even have to say anything to these guys. And part of...
This was Michael Hart playing bass on
Yes.
this, right?
We've worked together for about 25 years now, he and I. And great musicians that... I mean, I'm really lucky to work with people like these guys, James, Nate, you know, I don't want to leave anyone out. Michael, who did I miss?
I think that was Tom
Tom, of course, right? So, you know...
and Ron.
Ron, yeah. They tend to do the right things. They just naturally do the right things. And it's not always what I have in my mind's eye, which is why you got to stay open-minded.
So you give them first shot for their interpretation.
Absolutely. And here's why. And I get a lot of stories about this, but here's why. If I let them do what they think comes naturally to them, that's something that once I give them my input, it will forever ruin that performance because
Right.
I will have influenced their natural instincts.
And it could be a bit of a square peg in a round hole.
And it could be genius, whatever they do.
Yeah.
So I don't want to interfere with that. I want them to let the song talk to them and do what they think is right. And because they're so good, it usually is the right thing, you know. Just like the audience picked a different beat. And it happened to be, in hindsight, the right beat, and it works great for what we're doing, right? And what he did was the perfect thing because his instincts told him what to play.
And
I
by the
didn't
way,
have
he
to
was
say.
playing Rob's Hofner, what do they call, violin bass?
Oh yes, the Beatle bass,
Yeah.
1965. That's a beauty.
A real 1965, not a knockoff?
No,
Yeah.
come on.
Okay.
We had Jeff Emmerich there that
Yeah,
day,
that's
so
true.
I couldn't be doing no fakes here. So
Man.
anyway, he played the
It's-
Hofner, which isn't, you know, it's like that's not the bass I would normally put on this song, but it worked great, and his the way he approached that instrument was perfect. So you know, he added the
Since
bass.
the very first time she
It's pretty simple. Isn't that a great sound?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no EQ or anything on it. We didn't
Yeah.
even have time to mess with it.
Obviously had some compression on it, but just to keep it from peeking out.
Yep, just a little limiter, just to make sure it didn't crap out on us.
And we didn't do a lot of punches. I mean, I don't remember if we fixed anything, actually.
You know, if he made a mistake, there were a couple that happened. I don't know if it was him or someone else, but along the line, we stopped and fixed something, but pretty easy. So
you don't want to hear the sorries that they
now I wouldn't have gone up the octave, but he
Right.
did, and that's nice, right?
Yeah.
She's jumped off the edge. There are voices in
Wow.
her head.
And I did a little boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
nice little line in there, which again, that's
It's actually kind of a McCartney-esque line because he's playing the Hofner, probably influences thinking.
right. So, but he did a great job on it, and it's a simple part, but it works musically. He's hitting the right notes, and it gave us again. We're building on that foundation now. We've kind of put the walls up, haven't we? So we have the foundation of the drums. We've got some walls going in. Now we need to, you know, make a kitchen. You know, put a little
Yeah.
roof on it, all that cool stuff. So.
All right.
And James came in, and he had we talked about this part, and he had this idea of putting a piano in it and filtering it,
Right.
and I didn't. This is the part which, to me, my initial reaction was probably like, "What?"
Yeah.
Right? But he hears this idea that could give it a mood, right? Which is quite brilliant. But it doesn't sound like much when you just hear it alone, does it? It's just,
Yeah, it's almost churchy.
yeah, it's just a dull piano. So, but when you put it in the track, it sure does pull it out.
To choose a side. This is suicide. Till you.
Anyway, so the piano starts to give it some depth, which without it, you don't feel like it's
There's nothing else going on in that frequency range either at the moment.
right. So as a keyboard player, which I'm not, he had a sense for what to do.
Where to fit.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he's played on a million different songs, right?
You know what made me think to ask you to be on the show this week in particular was I've had a lot of questions lately about arranging for sonic arrangements where people, our members as a whole, are becoming more aware of picking stuff that goes in the right octave. Don't try and put three things in
Oh,
the
I
same.
could talk
in this-
forever
Yeah,
about
I
that.
mean that's everything, a lot of everything, and so that's what James is doing. He's going, okay, there's
He
a
wants
hole.
to stay out of the way of the bass.
Yep.
He knows where the vocal is, right? But
Yeah.
there's this place here that he could add a little depth or whatever. And, I don't want to speak for him because he's probably online. You can ask him.
James, if you're watching, let us know.
Chime in.
Yeah.
But that would be an interesting thing, is to hear, and I'll tell you, a lot of brilliant players don't actually think like that. They don't sit back and get a notepad
Do the
and temper, and it's
calculation.
just like, whoa, what do I do? It just
just
comes
go
to
there.
them, right? Because they're musicians,
Mm-hmm.
and they're musical, and their instincts guide them.
Here's
Right.
one advantage these guys had, and you had on that stage, that a lot of our viewers don't. They work alone in their studio by themselves. So while these guys could play off each other and they each only had to worry about their one thing, if you're working by yourself and playing all the instruments, you might go into rumination land a little more frequently and second guess yourself because you are playing all this stuff. So,
Got the answer.
yeah,
Go to the taxi boards and
Right.
bounce it off of somebody.
it's a great answer.
I think that if you've got to have, and we always talk about this in our little classes, you've got to have this support structure. You do. Now, we're going to talk after this about some stuff, you and I. I'm going to bounce some ideas off of you. You're a big part of my team. Ron's a part of my team. Nate's a part of my team. My wife's a part of my team. On and on and on. There are people that we go to that we rely on to give it to us straight. Even when it hurts. Even when it's not the easiest thing. Because we know it's coming from a place where we look out for one another. And that's what you got to have, is a good support team. And my team was on stage like that day, a good part
Yeah.
of it. So, I rely on them. And they kind of have a sense of, what works.
And you're right about the forums. So many of these guys, especially the people who tend to be regular watchers of Taxi TV, they're part of a community, and they've made friends in the chat room here, carries over to the forum. So that's a really good point. I think you're right about that. All right, so what next?
Next week, I don't know what I did. I see guitar here, but I don't know what it was. Let's listen. Shall we listen?
Yeah.
This sounds horrible.
It sounded great in
It sounds
context
great.
on stage. That was Michael Hart playing the guitar, or was
I
this
don't know who
me?
this was.
We did
I
two,
really
but
don't
ultimately
know.
we laid down two
There's
electric
a couple.
parts.
There's a few of them. I think that's Michael Hart on that one, but
Yeah.
I mean, you don't quote me.
I remember at the
Let's
time we
pan
were
that
all
off to the left
surprised
somewhere.
that he went that route with it, but it worked really well. And remember, by the way, Rob had asked Hannah, how do you hear this song, Hannah? And he had to take that in some consideration. She wasn't sitting there on stage. She was in the audience, and she really didn't have much to offer because she was very impressed with everything. But the only thing she said was, I don't want it to be a singer-songwriter song. I'd like to see it rock out a little more, I think was her biggest desire.
Well, everybody heard that. I mean, whoever,
Yeah.
all these guys played these parts, they must have been paying attention. And that's another big thing. If the artist has an idea of where they want to go with the song. It's their record.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention to that stuff. So anyway, so here's the guitar added. See, this is really cool. I just caught this. So he did a little. Did you catch that?
Was that a little seventh? Or
Yeah.
ninth? A seventh,
Yeah,
right?
sounded like it. So anyway, so that worked. I just caught that. Yeah, pretty good. So
Right,
next
could have played
piece.
that straight ahead. Nobody would have dinged him for it. Could add it in, and maybe nobody would ever notice. But it does add a little,
Yeah, it's interesting.
adds a
isn't
little
it?
texture. Yep.
And I think he said, give me a Marshall sound or something. And I'm thinking, what's he gonna do now?
And by the way, this was
AC/DC
not
or-
using any amps, right?
No, it's all plugins. It was just little plugins. So now at the end chorus, he added some power. He waited till the end for it, which is pretty good. And there's still a couple of tracks, a couple other guitar tracks that are in here. But basically, we've put the rhythm section in.
Right.
And it's starting to sound like we're getting somewhere, right? So it's not a singer-songwriter demo anymore. It sounds like, okay, with a little bit of,
Adding, subtracting, or balancing.
yeah, a little bit of, nudging here or there. Maybe update a sound, add some crashes, a couple of fills, a couple of extra things. We can take this to a finished record pretty quick.
Are there any other parts, or is that everything?
Yeah, there are two more. I
What
don't
else
know
do we
what they
have?
are, but we can check.
Oh, we.
Oh, so we got it. Sounds like a Vox kind of.
And notice now, this is in a whole other octave.
Yeah. Now it's interesting because
Now it's a rock record.
now starting to rock. All
Yeah.
right, so he chose as tones, like a Vox, a Fender kind of thing, or a Marshall thing. In these three tones, it's not three of the same tones.
Right.
Even
so they
though I
don't
think-
cancel each other out. They're complementing rather than.
Yeah, they've got their own sonic little space that you mentioned before.
Mhm.
So they don't have to be EQ'd an incredible amount so that they don't.
And notice
speak
he's
pretty
playing the
easily.
same part. They're all eighth notes. Ding, ding, ding,
Yeah,
ding,
he's
ding,
just-
ding.
he's
But
just
yet you
rocking
hear
it.
them all clearly because of that.
Yeah, you can hear every
Yeah.
little part that he's doing, and it was his idea to say, "Oh, give me a clean,
Mm-hmm.
give me a Vox, and give me a Marshall." So, I mean, there's your three big colors that you're going to paint with.
And all this took place. Now he was up there doing guitars for 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of.
It's not like we spent an afternoon just on those three guitar parts. And did we have one last? Didn't James Koshin have a bass keyboard? I don't remember
Yeah,
if
that's
we
where
ended up
everything
playing.
went.
Right, we
everything-
overloaded the system.
Yeah, so
We
that
were
was
definitely-
Ron's idea, of course. We
Yeah, and I
wanted to
pushed
add
for it because
that.
I felt bad. James had this idea, and Rob said to me, the way this is gonna, if it melts down Lasco, it's because we're gonna push Pro Tools, the CPU on Pro Tools to the max, and we did with this last part.
Right, because everything had to come in through plugins and EQs and record it and then play it back and all that stuff. So it was a little bit much for the little system. But I don't even know what this was, this other part. Let's see if I can find it.
I can't remember if we.
Oh, that's interesting. It's kind of like one of these other ones. Let's see.
Wow,
Yeah.
he was actually building a chord out of some of these notes, not just on the thing
Well,
where
that's
it goes
Nate.
to
See,
the
Nate,
seventh.
that was Nate that just added that on the top, which you're right. He heard.
Yep.
So he added this. He was missing the color, I guess, and he added that piece to it.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let's hear what it says.
Again, between these two guys, they took maybe 20 minutes to put all these guitars down to figure out what they wanted to do and put it
Right.
down. So it wasn't like brain surgery.
So
Incredible.
here's what the interesting thing is that, yeah, I mean, if I'm on the other end of the screen typing and making comments, I'd probably write something, oh, yeah, sure, yeah, Rob knows all of these guys, these guys. But the people that we've met at Taxi, all these guys are Taxi members, by the way.
Yeah,
they're
by the
out there.
by.
They're on Taxi. So, and the people that I've met through Taxi, like these are guys that I use on sessions. So they're available through the message boards and whatever. I mean, it's not as though, they're unattainable.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, so let's hear what this little piece sounds like in the whole muck of it here. I like it, it's...
Play the
it's
acoustic
coming.
with a couple of the guitars. I'm curious to see what...
The acoustic guitar?
Yeah. I'm curious to see where it fits in the sonic landscape.
So there's the acoustic, and they'll add the Nate guitar.
Okay.
There's nothing there. Then I go on the bridge, so we'll go
Yeah.
somewhere else. We'll go to the end somewhere.
Acoustic's a little out of tune.
Wow, that's kind of like a knife. It just,
Yeah.
woo! A little bend. There's the Marshall, It's without it. It's really the same rhythm, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's the clean one, and I think, let's see, I think the clean is the same rhythm as the Marshall. I think you just layered the textures of it. That's it. Sounds like the same part. Pretty much.
Let it run for them. I want to hear if he did added any cool notes or anything. Oh.
That's the end, Michael. That was the
Okay.
end. We'll back it up, though. All right. So yeah, he layered the tones and created the depth in the sonic part of it by just.
So can you give us a little better mix, like a little...
It's a great mix. What are you talking
a
about?
little more vocal? And I don't know where the drums are at.
I remember what happened. Somebody in the audience, or Ron, or somebody said they want to hear something because it's Suicide. They wanted to hear something like Cutting,
Right.
one of those type of tones. You remember that? And I think that's what triggered that idea to add that in. So, and I think that particular guitar vocal, I could take this in a whole different direction just by beginning with this bit.
Next time, read between the lines. This is suicide. This is the very first time.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Completely different
need
feel.
to cry.
I
That's
remember,
right.
I'm sure I've told you this story 100 times, that back in my infancy, Tommy Dowd, who's a legendary producer, everybody left to go to dinner. I think we were working on a project that he and Clapton were co-producing, these guys named Tom and Don. And Tommy said, do you want me, when they go out to dinner, do you want me to show you how to take a good record and make it a great record? And I said, sure. And there was a 4-count drum roll turnaround coming out of the bridge going into the last chorus, like with the accents on one. Boom, into the, so, yeah, 4-count, accents on the one, and he said, edit that out and use it to start the song. And you're absolutely right, because pointing out what you just pointed out there, if you started the song with nothing but Hannah's vocal and that plaintive sounding guitar, you've already established the pain in the beginning of the song, rather than making it sound like a singer-songwriter thing.
Yeah, it'd probably be a lot more modern sounding, because this is...
Can you do that? Just give me
if
like...
I knew how to use GarageBand, I could, but I don't.
It's mutes and unmutes, Rob.
Go ahead.
I don't know how
paste
to.
it.
I don't know how to do a
it.
subgroup
I'm
on
a
it.
Pro
All right.
Tools guy,
Okay. Well,
so-
then just
Sorry.
then put together let it run from top to bottom. Let them hear the finished product. Yeah, they don't have a subgroup button readily, apparently. They've really done a nice job of cleaning up the interface, I gotta say.
Looks good. There's James's piano. Hi, James. Are you there?
It's the start of a day. It's the end of a fight. She fought off a war while she slept.
I know, I'm a slob.
She opened her eyes, forgot how to breathe. She found that she lost something that she couldn't see. This is the end. She sees a
Now, is that come through just through the speakers? Or
Yeah, it's coming through the speakers.
See, this is a Chiarelli. Check out.
You don't want to hear the sorries that they have to say.
Yeah, that's how
Well, it's impression.
There are voices in her head. She sees a sign. It's the beginning of her own happy ending. This is the very first time. She doesn't need to cry. She can't
This is Rob's plug-in.
Okay, so there it is anyway. That's,
Play it from the top one time with and without the plug-in. Bring it in and out.
I'll play it from there. How's that? Chorus verse.
I wanted to hear one whole, like,
This is suicide.
From where? The
play it
top?
from the top. Yeah, nobody's ever heard the song in its entirety.
I don't know how to get back to the top.
Worst comes,
Garage Band. Help me, Lord. Any Garage Band users out
grab the
there?
little hit.
There we go.
Yeah,
Oh,
there you go.
God.
Even I knew that.
Their image of me is shot now. My kid could probably just zip around on
Oh
this
yeah,
thing.
Hannah won't let me touch GarageBand.
My God.
Acoustic guitars? Or they're not playing at this point?
Not in yet, but they're coming.
It's the start of a day. It's the end of a fight. She fought off a war.
Is your plug-in in or
while
out?
she slept
Okay.
the last
This is with Rob's
night.
plug-in in.
She opened her eyes, forgot how to breathe. She found that she
Distortion.
lost something that she couldn't see. This is the end. She sees a light. She finally
that better?
knows what it feels like to be alright.
Somebody still loves me.
This is the very first time she doesn't
The track is distorting.
Well, I'm adjusting the input to the mic there. Gotta
You want me
bring,
to put that back?
yeah.
This is like the Three Stooges.
I know,
except
bring
it's
it back.
just two of us.
Bring the plug-in in and out. They're on a delay, so the fixing I just have every time.
She sees the signs. It's the beginning of her own happy ending.
Well, that was sounding
This is
good.
the very first
Yeah.
time she doesn't need to cry, and she can't explain why. This is suicide. Not stuck between two
just overloading whatever the microphone is on this thing or something.
Hey, I gotta say, the plug-in sounds awesome. This is the first time I've heard the plug-in other than you screwing around with it one night at your
Yeah.
house, fine-tuning it.
It's my favorite plugin. It's been on like 10 hit records already.
And this is the one you're selling, this exact
This is
thing?
it. Same thing. Been using it for months and beta. It's been out for a while, and
What do you call it?
I call it the Mix Bus Lite.
And what's the Mix Bus Not Light? Is that coming out?
That's going to be further down the road, but this is like the light version. It's simple.
So what's on it?
You got an input drive. The idea is, literally every time I do a seminar, people want to know, how do I get my records to sound loud? Well, I
Right.
took all of that crap that I do and everybody else does, all of the main mix guys.
Right,
We all do the same stuff, maybe in slightly different ways.
right.
I took all of that stuff and
It's a
and
one
Hayden
knob
wrote
fix.
the thing and we put it in the way that it should really kind of work, without making it
So this is the-
attacks, releases, and then pop and hip hop might have certain sensibilities and stuff.
So he's
it's all
actually got,
interactive.
it's got a big knob on it that lets you select the style or
drive
genre
the
of
input.
music.
First
Yeah.
thing you should do is you drive the input until it gets -3 or 0, and then you can go further and saturate it, and then you get harmonics
Mm-hmm.
and cool stuff happening. But the idea is, look, you want your mix loud because if you're going in and you're going to play your record or my record, I'm winning by volume alone, right?
Mhm.
Because it's going to jump out of the speaker. So that's number one. And if you're doing a hip hop record or a pop record, they tend to have.
It's
different
actually got a
things,
hip
right?
hop and a pop
Yeah.
selector.
So, rock's usually got live drums. Ballad generally is a lot lighter in the rhythm section, and easy would be, stuff that maybe doesn't have a rhythm bass. It's maybe strings or orchestra or a cappella stuff. Pop might have, programmed drums. Hip hop usually has a bigger bottom end. So all of that stuff, like all of the inner workings kind of change. Attacks, releases, thresholds and stuff like that. And
So it's kind of idiot proof and meaning that in the nicest possible way.
yeah, absolutely. This is like I use pretty much with this same kind of thing exactly on my mixes. If I'm on an SSL or a Neve or whatever, I use outboard gear, but that stuff is all
Sounds
know.
amazing.
dialed into that.
And it
nice
works
and easy.
even with GarageBand.
Works with pretty much everything. Yeah,
That's pretty amazing. All right, so
that's fun. $19, can't lose. I mean, that's a ham sandwich and a Coke.
Yeah, expensive ham sandwich, but
In
yeah.
LA or New
Yeah,
York, New
right.
York deli. Hey,
Oh,
wait
yeah.
a minute, we're talking New York.
Yeah, that's right. The sandwich would be $19, and you'd have to take half of it home. Cool, sounds great. So let me open it up for questions because we're
Let's talk.
Yeah. All right, ask questions. Hopefully, I kept turning
James
down the
just
volume.
arrived. He didn't hear all the good things I said about him.
Where is he? Oh, there he is. Hey, James, how are you? Yeah, you can buy at Gauge USA, gauge-usa.com.
Gauge-usa.com. Yep. And if you buy if you're a taxi guy, which you're on taxi. After you buy it, send an email to us, and we'll get you your discount. All right. If you buy a mic and you're a taxi person, we'll get you a discount. If you want the plug-in, that's it. Taxi rocks with an exclamation point, and that's a 50% off code. So if you want the plug-in, there you go.
Can I get one for
Have
50% off?
You can have this one.
Okay. Thanks. Leave it when you go.
How would
Under
your
direction.
direction differ from what was laid down?
That's from Keith LeBrant.
Well, how would it differ? Good question. I think what I would do is I would probably do a combination of live drum loops, and I would process them probably, with Amp Farm or something that would, dirty them up so they didn't sound too perfect. These sound real clean and perfect. And then I'd probably lay some programming on top of it. And, I think that would make a pretty dramatic difference. But before you can really, the reason I hesitate to get into that is, placing songs, producing songs, working with artists, those are different things. And while they are different in many ways, but knowing what the artist is going to do. If this was a song that was going to go to Avril, then I would do it completely different than if I wanted to, give it to Pink, right, or Kelly Clarkson. Now
Know your target audience.
Right, you got to know what they do. Now Kelly Clarkson, different vocal range. Maybe, and her stuff is usually a combination of programmed drums, live drums. Avril Lavigne, different sound, right? And different sensibilities, different audience, different vocal range. And who was the other one I mentioned?
Kelly Clarkson and Pink.
Pink, well, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
There's different attitude, different vocal range, different sounds. So that stuff...
Probably more keyboard driven with Pink, a little more programmy. I mean, she'll
maybe,
have guitars,
depending,
but
yeah.
a little more pop radio than rocky.
The question is what is Pink going to do next?
Yeah.
And hopefully...
Right, don't do what she did 3 years ago. Think where she's going to be in a year and a half.
Right, so that, that is one of the most difficult things to do, and try to catch what that wave is, catch that wave onto the next... the next thing that's happening, and being aware of what sounds in pop music are happening and staying on top of it. It's a difficult and challenging thing, but it's no different than any other business. Doctor has to go to seminars and learn about the new medicines and how new treatments are. We're in the music business. We got to know what's going on and what the trends are and how to do that.
It is important, and all the information is out there. I get complaints from taxi members. Yeah, I don't listen to radio. I don't like what's on radio. Then pick a genre that you do like, that you are good at, so that you can know it inside and out. Because it would be like trying to design fashion and not being aware of what today's fashion is. So you don't need to be 180 degrees out of phase with it to be cutting edge. Push the envelope 10 or 15%. I say that all the time like a broken record, but it's true. A couple more questions. I want you to do one more passes from the top where you're just adding instruments like one at a time every few bars. And then without the plug-in, and then when you get like two-thirds
I don't
away.
need the plug-in. I was just...
But it sounds great. Sounds better with the plug-in.
It sounds fantastic. That's what I'm telling you.
But, okay, I want to take a couple more questions, though.
Give me a good one. Give me a tough one. Give me something really challenging.
Yeah, and also because I was overfeeding the...
Pink is going to become more fuchsia. That's pretty good. I think that's one of the questions. That's a good one. Really good. David Loving. Good one, David.
Here's Waddy JP says, I have an ECM 47 and 87. Your mics, they were so close to my Neumann that he sold the Neumann.
Wow, you probably bought a car after selling those Neumanns. PC Pro Tools 11. Good question about the plugin. The plugin works for just about everything except for Pro Tools PC, and it'll be out for Pro Tools PC in about a week or so. That's been a pain in the butt, but yeah, it's not quite ready for Pro Tools PC users. What do you have to do to work with me? Give me a call. You got my website, finalmix.com. Just click on the Rob email.
And
I'm around. I answer my emails.
The URL for the plugin, Rob, is gauge-usa.com.
No, plugin is finalmix.biz.
Oh, you're not
B-I-Z.
selling it on... It's not a Gauge project?
No.
Or product?
Finalmix.biz. B-I-Z. Finalmix.biz.
Good to know. Sorry about that. Shows you how often I go to your site. Walk away for a second.
Works
The top of the
great
show. How do we get in touch?
Sonar, yes. So, no questions. All right.
All right, so play it from the top one time, and do it with the plug-in on, because or you could turn the plug-in on 2/3 of the way down, but just one more time, because I was distorting everything by having the input up too loud on my computer. So let them hear it one more time, just adding one thing at a time, so they can hear how all the
So
pieces
we want
fit
to
together.
start with nothing.
Or
start
the
with
acoustic
nothing.
guitar and vocal,
Okay, here we go.
which is the form that they got it in.
Okay, hold on. Let's start right there. Acoustic guitar and vocal. How about that for an
It's the
idea?
start of a day. It's the end of a fight.
He's really just playing the bass note.
While she's
And then he did whole note strums.
Night. She opened her eyes.
Nobody comments on the reverb?
I thought it was my daughter's voice that was built in.
That's a beautiful reverb.
Is that your reverb, Rob?
So
It is a great reverb.
another guitar, acoustic.
She finally knows what it feels like to be alright.
Okay, bass.
Bass.
Or drums, whatever.
There it is. How about bass and vocal?
And she can't explain why. This is suicide. Not stuck between
How about
two
James's
ways.
piano and a
She's
vocal?
in a better place. No need to
Now all you need is a kick
choose
drum and you're going straight
side.
dance
Okay.
club, right?
Yeah,
This
do
is
it.
I don't have that.
suicide.
How about
She
an
stares
electric?
at the past. She knows it's too late.
Great
Don't
sound.
wanna hear the
They're all just
stories that they
Standard
have
Pro
to
Tools
say.
plugins, nothing special.
She's jumped off the edge. There are voices in her head. She sees the signs.
That's it. So that's it. Bass, piano, guitar, guitar.
Everything in its
It's
place.
nice. It's easy to hear it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a big deal.
Notice there aren't a lot of complicated parts doing all kinds of different rhythmic signatures. Just
No, it's nothing much. I mean, we had an hour, right? So we didn't do details, but you see, this part of it I like because this sounds pretty modern here as a guitar bass part, but I feel like the drums, they could sound a lot cooler, and I think that would make a lot more modern sounding. But for now, it's there.
are you talking about the drum part or the drum sound?
Sound.
You dirty them up?
What's that?
You would dirty them up?
Yeah. That was cool. You know, I think a real drummer in there would be, I mean, imagine Dave Grohl, for instance.
Yeah.
That might be cool.
It's amazing. It's a wall of guitars that you can hear every one. You can hear every one of them.
You can hear every one. One
Yeah.
of the tricks to making mixes sound big is when I get 30 guitars, I mute 29 of them. It's true.
I
You
know.
mute some of the stuff because more isn't always, bigger. It's
I did a show once where I brought in a whole bunch of Bee Gees stuff and played it just to demonstrate that. They were masters. Once they started working like from Jive Talkin' forward, not that their stuff before that was bad by any
those
stretch,
guys are brilliant, absolutely.
but from that point forward, they were so careful about the parts they chose, and the parts had so little to them, but you weave it all together, and they still hold up today. They don't sound completely modern.
We
But you
talk
can't
about
help but
this
love it.
all the time. Whenever I'm with, Derek or Paul or Nate or music friends of mine, the conversation always comes around to parts are parts.
Mhm.
Like a guitar player just playing the guitar. Well, that's great. He's playing the guitar, but what I like in what pop music really is to me, to a large extent, is identifiable parts. Parts that are transcribable, that are cool. Think about Layla, right? So
Mhm.
that's a classic guitar lick. If you think about Satisfaction, immediately you know that lick. If you think about Ticket to Ride, you know that dum
Yeah.
da 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 dum, and you brap dum dum, and every part of the song is memorable, and it's a part that's important. And if you remove it, it somehow loses something.
Absolutely.
So when you start removing parts, if it doesn't lose anything and if you don't miss it,
Yeah. Keep it out. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
right, it doesn't, sometimes you put too much in that soup, and sometimes the best pizza, for example, is just a cheese pizza, without all the crap on it, and sometimes that's the best way to have it, and other times you need all the crap. Who knows? But I think that's, my team, we're always talking about the right parts, not just putting stuff into the mix, but putting a really cool, memorable part in. Even that piano part, which is the simplest part because it's just boom, 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 and it's tucked in the back. When you remove it, I miss it. It completely changes the mood. That's why it's a great part.
It's the only part in the whole record that has any ethereal kind of
Yeah.
mellow roundness to it. Everything else is very edgy or punchy, and,
Right.
and that fills a void.
And and here's the truth. I've been doing this for a while, so I don't mind admitting that when I heard it, I wasn't floored by it, and I resisted it. But now in time, it's grown on me, and I can't imagine the song without it, which is why great musicians, great players, these parts really, I don't mean these parts, but a part in a song, the importance of it and the ability to really identify what's, those corners of the foundation of the song. That's a big deal. It's a really big deal. Music is my pizza. Good.
J.D. Stamper said, "What was Hannah's vocal mic on the track?" Was it an
It's
87?
one of these.
Yeah, the Gage ECM 87 that night. We literally did that in his control room with Rob.
It's in my garage.
Yeah,
It's my garage.
he's got a 3-bay garage. Took one of the bays, made it into a studio. Has practically no outboard in there. He's got one great old compressor, a Lang.
Shh. So we're not going to talk about that.
But he's only got
today.
everything else he does with plugins these days, right? Everything.
No, I mean, when I do records, it's studio stuff. If I'm doing demos, then a lot of the stuff is in the box. Yeah, absolutely. But we had the speakers going.
Yeah.
The speakers were going, and she was just singing it. And
Right.
so we had bleed in the speakers and everything, and it's fine.
She was literally this close to Rob, and Hayden
Yeah, it's about
was
this big.
like right here. Yeah, the whole thing took place in this tiny little area. The
And that's-
Metamucil plug-in. Okay, any other questions for we call it a day? Nope. Okay, no more questions. Man, I can't believe it. You
Gonna
guys.
have to suffer and get one. What do you want to get?
Oh, colonoscopy. They're talking colonoscopies. We're trying to give you an education here. You're talking about colonoscopies.
There it is.
Current hits seem to have more deeper, more prominent bass lines, the bass than ever before. Many songs sound like the bass is generated by sine waves rather than an actual bass guitar. What's your take on this?
It's true. Some of them are kind of sound waves, but there are. Here's the thing. If you've got Trillion bass, do you know that plug-in?
Yeah.
Great plug-in. Generally just flip through it and you'll hear it. You'll know what the basses are that they're using today. You'll find it pretty easy. A lot of the hip hop stuff still has the 808 stuff in there, and that sounds great.
Roland?
Tuned 808, tuned 808 drums. Some people call it a boom, which is they're usually tuned down around 40 hertz, and they might move and have different notes for with the chord changes. Some of them don't, but that's a big deal. All your dance stuff is still based off of 909 drums in combination with other stuff. Vengeance drums, for you folks that want to know, what's really, being used a lot. Vengeance drums, yeah, that's it. I mean, there's your rhythm section, pretty much. And, yeah, good start. That's it. Well, thanks, you guys rock. I like that one. That's a good. Do you ever
Okay.
use Phoenix in my mixes? Yeah. Yep, I sure do. The Phoenix stuff. There's Luster. There's Radiant. But that stuff. Crane Song Phoenix, I think, is what they're asking me, right? So those plugins are really, really good, and they do richen tracks. I don't like to overdo that stuff a lot. I think that one of the things that I'm asked a lot is, what do you do on the mix bus, okay? And the answer is not a lot usually. The biggest deal with the mix bus and how you get the records loud and competitive is, it's a combination of compressors and limiters, and generally it's pretty light for me. And I don't like to overload the mix bus. It's not my style. But a couple of little things can go a long way, and that's exactly what the plug-in is that I do. But I like to use the Phoenix stuff. It's good. It's good. I particularly like it on pianos.
I think it was Amanda. Somebody. Yeah. No, Anna Edie said, "What do most people listen to music on these days? Their phones." I think the answer to that is depends on the generation. But she said, "Does that affect your mixing or how you approach mixing because of the way people listen differently today?"
The mix has to sound good. It's your job as a mixer to make it sound pretty much good on everything. And then the mastering guy is going to, take it the rest of the way. But it's sound and balance. I mean, the bottom line is there are so many pieces to it to consider. One of the things that if you're the real records, when I say real records, I mean, when there's a budget and that stuff, and you really get this record for a big artist. One of the things is that artist has to be identifiable on some level. So I'm always looking to understand what they've done in the past, where they might be going in the future. Don't want to be too safe, but you also, don't want to completely get crazy, although there's a place for that. And then, identifying what that sound is and be forward thinking and take a little bit of risks, combine the elements, take some chances and paint a picture that's not been painted before in a certain respect. Does that make any sense?
It does, but you're handing them a loaded gun.
It's a loaded gun,
With
baby.
the paint the picture that's never been painted before, because people who aren't very far along in their progress take that to mean I'm going to do something totally crazy. A lot of times it's from
Okay,
lack
let me
lack
back
of
it off.
developing the skill set yet. Like you can't just you can't play outside jazz the first time you pick up an instrument.
That's right.
So
Here's the best way I can put it. Most people, I think, overdo. They turn too many knobs.
Mhm.
Okay, this record that we did at Taxi, it was just add a plug-in and put a limiter just because we don't want to overload it and have to retake it, right? So
Right, just
very
catching
little
peaks.
processing. And if you're using a decent mic and a decent instrument, it really should sound, if you place the microphone correctly, a singer, whatever, it should sound pretty good without a lot of touching it. Now, this is true. It's when you start brightening the vocal, and then you brighten the guitar, and then you want more out of the kick, and then you add some bass to these things become cumulative, and you really get into traps. Now, my suggestion to anybody who's making a demo and really wants to be efficient about it, okay, is think about balances first. Get your balances right. Listen to the record. Put all the faders up. Listen to it. If the vocal isn't loud enough, turn everything else down. If
Right,
you want to
otherwise
hear a
you're
little,
chasing all the way up to the end of the fader travel.
yeah, that's the way I would say. Get the vocal at the right level. Make sure that relationship is good. If you want to hear more drums, you turn up the drums. So you begin with the balances first, and then if you need something to poke through, this is the way I do it. You might turn an EQ, you might add some compression or some limiting, whatever.
So going back to your plug-in, which sounded amazingly good, if I just bought the plug-in right now, and I didn't know what you just said from years of experience of sitting behind a console, my instinct would be, ooh, it makes the bass sound good, it makes the drum sound good, it makes the acoustic guitar sound good, and I would use the plug-in on every instrument, probably as I recorded it. And then I've got everything going through the plug-in. Have I created a disaster by doing that? And would I be smarter to use the plug-in on the mix because was it designed
It's
primarily
designed for the mix. We're coming out with another one for the vocals, another one for the bass, another one for guitars. We're going to do this. The idea behind this is to make it affordable for folks who don't want to learn, about attacks and releases and experiment on. They're songwriters. The people that want to get this stuff done and get it out and move on to the next song. They don't want to be,
right,
wrapped in the studio and hiring. This becomes a very expensive process these days. It always has been, but now with all of these tools in the computer, you really, at the end of the day, you might have a good mix, but are you going to pay for mastering, or are you going to, do you want your mix to be loud like the next guy's? Well, of course you do. Because when you go in and you try to pitch that song, if yours is louder than mine, then you have a distinct advantage. Now, people have differing views about it. They think music is too compressed these days. That's a different conversation. The truth is that if your song and my song are equally good, and mine is louder in that meeting, I walk out happy and you don't.
Yeah.
Right? That's the reality of it. And simple things like I'm doing a rock record. Well, rock records have a certain sound palette, and they have certain EQ boosts and compression and a certain feel to them. Well, it takes a long time to figure that out. And these are, I'm not saying it works that every rock record is the same. I'm not saying that. I'm just
but
saying
it falls
that
under a general category of tones
right.
and settings a range of settings and tones that you would use.
That's right. We're familiar with these things.
Yeah, you're not going to put lemon juice on something that would normally require honey.
That's right.
That's
a good way to look at
in
it.
terms of cooking.
I'm just trying to think of that, but yeah, that's the idea. So sound and balance. Just balances first, add your EQ, your compression, and this other stuff, because it's too difficult if you really don't know what the tools are. It can be very difficult to be adding bottom and level.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you can't hear the bass, there's a question. Do you need more bottom end on it? Or is it because it needs to cut a little more? Or does it need to be...
Or the parts conflict? Is there a bass keyboard part in there that's walking all over the bass?
Could be any number of things.
And only years of experience would teach you where to look first.
I think that experience goes an awful long way, about that. But if you begin with the balance of it, then it should reveal itself the way it naturally would. And I think that's, for somebody who's just doing a demo, that's the critical piece. And to really make this point, very few artists that I've worked with over the last 25 years have said to me, I really think that tambourine needs a little bit of 2K. Or, you need to add a little 500 hertz to the acoustic piano. In fact, I've never heard it. What they are most concerned with is, I can't hear my harmony. Can you turn that up? And then the mixer says, I know what we really should do is boost 3K, 1 dB, it'll pop out a little, let's try that. So you interpret what they're really saying, right? And they might say, no, it's too bright now. Hey, you were right. Let me turn it up a dB or two. How's that? Great, perfect. You see, people think in terms of levels. I can hear it or I don't. I can hear it or I don't. And when you think in those terms, it really simplifies the process. Then it becomes, wow, I got everything sounding balanced. Now let me see if I can kick it up a notch and throw a little spice on it.
Somebody asked, do I need a vocal booth?
No.
For what it's worth, this was recorded in a a room with parallel walls, right? Do you have parallel walls in there?
Yeah.
Tiny. I mean, his room front to back is probably what, 7 or 8 feet deep.
Yeah.
And maybe 8 or 10 feet wide.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Small.
part of a garage.
Small.
I mean, it's built solidly.
16, about 10 feet deep. Here's the thing. Should you have a vocal booth, do you want a good acoustical environment? Of course. I mean, we all want that stuff. But here's the thing, and this is exactly why, this question is an endless question. When we started Gauge, it was because I couldn't find decent drum mics for my son's drum kit.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Guitar Center, I bought some stuff, I hated it because I was used to hearing good mics.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to spend 10 grand on it. Do you want to spend 10 grand and create a vocal room? Is it going to be better? It probably will. Maybe not, but it might be. Well, if you have the money to spend and that's something you're interested in doing, great. For me, I mean, you can hang up a couple of curtains and it might cost you a few $100 and you can pay rent. I mean, it depends on your situation. I mean, honestly, this is not easy for musicians. I talk to them every day. The business is difficult. It's increasingly difficult. It's harder to get cuts. You know this.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this. I'm not saying anything that's a surprise. Are you going to make a better record with the vocal booth and scrapping for rent, or are you going to make a better record not worrying about rent for the next few months?
Nobody ever put a track in a TV show or a movie or sold one more download because they had a vocal booth or they didn't.
Yeah.
It's more about the song and the balance.
You've got to catch the vibe.
Yeah.
You've got to get the vibe, and yes, you want a good recording, so I don't want to minimize that, because look, I'm an engineer. I'm psycho about this stuff.
I saw the greatest.
Psycho about it.
I saw this online the other day. Saw the greatest at-home solution for variable acoustics. I thought this was so brilliant. Take a moving blanket and a shower rod, shower curtain, a rod, and then you get a regular moving blanket and go to Michael's, or a sewing place. You know those grommets that they put in curtains that are about this big.
Yep.
Some they do them in curtains. They do them on shower rods. And this
You
person
go to Staples and get those little things that clamp around it, right?
Yeah, you could use those.
Yeah,
This guy.
It's a great idea.
This guy just used the grommet, so it had kind of a wavy effect to it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It had kind of a wavy effect. Anyway, and then he put it on this reflective wall. And if he wanted more reflection, he scooted it back. If he
Great
wanted
idea.
less reflection, he scooted it forward, and it really made a difference. And it was a $25 fix.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah.
mean, we want it, the bottom. That's a great question, and I think the answer, it's such a difficult answer because we all want to pursue excellence. I mean, that's the goal, is we want to set our standards high. The question is can you manage it? Is it affordable? Does it make sense? Is that the most important thing you can do at this time? And this is a daily challenge, and it's do you need another acoustic guitar, or do you really need to pay rent? I mean, this is what I've lived with my whole life. I mean, you remember when you met me, I would fly to New York and not a nickel to my name.
He would literally fly to New York like 3 days a week to work with me, and then the next week I would fly to Boston 3 days of work with him. Amazing.
Yeah, and the funny thing is and again, this is what's driven my plug-in business and my microphone business, is that I remember those days. It is so hard for a musician to catch a break. I mean, put a plus sign up if you know what I'm talking about. For a musician to catch a break these days, it is it is a bitch, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to play songs. It's so hard to get jobs. Musicians don't have the venues to play like they used to play. They used to pay you to play.
Yeah.
Now you've got to shell out the dough, which means you got a day job so that you can get your music heard. And then you've got to shop it to a decreasing amount of record companies. And then the film companies, that market is becoming saturated. And if not for a company like Taxi, I mean, how do you get your records out? How do you get your music heard? Well, you can send it out on YouTube, but now you've got a free record out there that you just poured your soul
And
into.
a gazillion competitors, and then the question is, how do I rise above them all? By making better music.
That's right. The bar is increasingly higher. It's increasingly more difficult, and I think it makes us all better. I do think we're better for it, but that doesn't mean it's easy. I mean, good, affordable stuff, being wise, so that you can make your way through this business and in life and catch a break. I got a lot of pluses. I like that. That's excellent. So
David Loving definitely found his plus key. All right, let's give away a microphone. I pull it back out at a little visual aid here because I did take it out of its little carry case. Come on. There you go.
did you put that back without its
I did.
protective case?
I had the little cloth wrapped around it, but I didn't put it back in the case. So it comes with a foam windscreen. What's it got? Oh, it's got a bird cage.
Yep, shock mount.
It's got the shock mount. I'm never gonna get this back in one piece.
That's okay.
Oh, not really, because we got to ship it to whoever wins it. Oh well, I can do this off camera. All right, so I am gonna run. Actually, I'm gonna have Rob run his finger up and down the thing because I know too many of you guys personally, and one of you is gonna win the Blackbird edition of the Gauge ECM 87. So Rob, just take your finger, shut your eyes, run it up and down, and stop. And whoever we stop on, that's who's gonna get this microphone.
Can I just pick one because I like a comment? Or do I have to go random?
Better go random.
I better go
Yeah,
random?
better go random. I don't want anybody to go, I can't believe he did that.
Okay.
Random, yeah. As
You
much as
better
I
do
would,
it. You close your eyes and do it.
as much as I would like to let you give it to somebody whose comment you liked, I think that everybody else would complain. Okay, I'm running my finger up and down the thing. What did I stop on?
The Luger.
The Luger. Okay.
Dear God bless me. I love that. It's great.
That's actually what I stopped on. All right, Luger, you need to send an email to Sophia, but not Sophia with a PH, Sophia with two Fs. By the way, Sophia has taken over because Sarah went to work for Trent Reznor as his personal assistant. Free tickets for Mikey. Okay, anyway, Sophia at taxi.com. Soffia at taxi.com, and put in the subject line in all caps. Not that I need to tell you that because you only type in all caps. Put in the subject line in all caps. I won the Gauge microphone, and we will ship this beautiful Blackbird edition of the incredible sounding Gauge ECM 87 out to you. We'll get it out here in the next few days. You should have it in a week to 10 days. And you're going to love it. You are going to love it a lot. Cool. All right, Robbo, thank you for...
Thanks for hanging. Good
Oh,
one.
it's always
Good one.
fun.
Good one.
And thanks for taking the time to put it on the laptop. And
I'll
have
send
on
you the
thumb-
garage drawer. I'll send you. I didn't bring a thumb.